that's Frank. He's singing Baubles, Bangles, and Beads, which I've heard before, but I never really listened to it much. But I just realized the whole point of it, which is baubles, bangles, and beads. In other words, what women do to attract men. Then maybe he'll buy you a ring. So, of course, like all happy movies, the happy song ends with the marriage, and of course, like all sad songs and sad movies, it ends with the death. So, that's a convention of, I don't know, 1950s Hollywood, maybe we'll say that happy movies end with marriages, sad movies end with deaths. But of course, that's an overstatement, but it points out something in our culture, which is when we're involved in stories, thinking about stories, if a sad story ends in a death, well, in real life, every life ends with a death. So is every single person the hero of a tragic story? Of course not. And is every marriage happy? Of course not. And there's some traffic things going on. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't record yourself while you're driving. It's very dangerous. Anyway, so that's Frank singing about the lady, particular lady or ladies who are wearing baubles, bangles, and beads, who end up with a husband because they got their attention. And of course, it's a happy song because it ends in a marriage. So anyway, back to real life. All real lives end in death. And that was the problem I had with miniseries. Roots, Centennial, there were some other ones, North and South, I think. It was a really big thing there for a minute, where they would show a family intergenerationally, multi-generationally. So you'd see what happened to their character, and then you'd see what happened to that character's kid, and then you'd see what happened to that character's kid. And so you saw a progression. But even if there was a heroic person that you wanted to have a happy life and they had a happy life, the movie continued after their death. So that convention of, oh, the person's still alive, this is happy, they've had a successful story, is gone, because they're now talking about Chicken George rather than Kizzy or whatever. They're talking about the kid and the parent's gone. So we've got this expectation, the difference between a story and real life, that's every life is sad because every life ends in death. Of course not. But it's just an example of how living in that Hollywood culture, pop culture, alternate reality of entertainment, where certain expectations are part of the story that don't match real life. Just like I was thinking the other day, I had someone in my life who was extremely dramatic, and they watched soap operas. And their dad said, look, she's acting just like the soap operas. Why is she watching soap operas? And of course, that's what we're all doing when we consume media of any type. And when we're around certain people, birds of a feather flock together. But birds also start to share feathers when they're near one another. So anyway, just a comment on the difference between real life and movies and songs, entertainment, and a couple examples there from the 50s and the 70s. And of course, we say Hollywood culture, but what we're really talking about, I think, is a distillation of Western culture, or, European culture that's come west and mixed with other cultures and we call it the Western world, but we're talking about a simplified distillation of that, mass marketed. And of course, how we already are influences what movies and songs are written, but how they are written influences how we become. So, just an interesting observation there about tragedy and drama. And of course, the whole idea of dividing everything into two, why are there two masks? There are funny movies and sad movies, right? There are funny plays and sad plays. There are comic things and tragic things. But of course, in real life, everything's got a mixture of both. And that's one of the messages of Addams Family, which I'm in currently, is that you see the shades of gray and you appreciate the bad stuff mixed with the good stuff. But that understanding of the Greek drama, where everything is comedy or tragedy, I don't know if the Greek plays were exactly that clear cut, but the understanding of that ancient tradition seen through the lens of medieval culture and then moving over to United States and then pop culture spread throughout the world, which we could call Hollywood. That's just one of the aspects of it that is a lie. And a movie, a story, a song, it has to be simplified in order to be remembered, in order to be transmitted, in order to be a story. You have to frame the photograph. You can't just open the window and take a picture, because even the window is framing what you see. You have to limit something in order to create a story. You have to have a character, not just talk about every person that's ever existed, or you don't have a story. You have to talk about some of the aspects of their life, and you pick the sad ones or the happy ones. But that way of looking at the world, of dividing everything into comedy or tragedy, affects how we think. And it may be helpful to categorize things, but it's also, maybe it's gotten in the way of some people who are not the hero of their own story, some people who are not deciding if they want comedy or tragedy, some people who feel stuck in one or the other because they think every story is one or the other, and of course it's not. So that's my thoughts for today. We're at 8 minutes and 22 seconds, and we're speeding along perilously turning the radio on and talking about whatever we find. And today, frankly, that's what we found.